Hey, Facebook and YouTube family. This is Taquanda from Division of Communications, and welcome to our Women's History Month series. We're excited to be back here again, talking to some phenomenal women who are doing, as I say, really dope things within their industry, as well as here at the university, either connected to the university or here at Eastern. If this is your first time checking in with us, as we say in Detroit, what up, though? We are really glad to have you here with us today. And if you are catching the replay, thanks for watching the replay. Make sure that you put any comments or questions down in the comment box, and we would love to acknowledge them either live or later on. So I'm going to jump right into this conversation again. This month, we are talking to phenomenal women who are doing, as I say, dope things within their industry, as well as connected to the university or at the university. And we are talking about celebrating Women's History Month and making her story. So today, I will be having a candid conversation with Dr. Mary Schneider. And if you know anything about Dr. Schneider, she is a powerhouse at Eastern when it comes to our bands. And I am excited for you guys to get to know her just a little bit better. But before we jump on in, you know how we do with our disclaimer. Again, if your questions or your comments are not related to today's topic, we do ask that you refrain from asking those and dropping them in the comment box. But you can email us at social_media@emich.edu, and we'll make sure that those questions get answered, or they will be forwarded to the respective party to ensure that you get an answer. Again, we want to answer your questions, but today we're talking about women's history and all the things that are going on concerning that, as well as meeting Dr. Mary Schneider. So again, we welcome your questions, your comments, your concerns concerning today's topic within our comment box. So I'm going to share a little bit about Dr. Schneider. She is a professor of conducting and director of bands here at Eastern Michigan. She conducts the Wind Symphony. She teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in conducting music education and guides the vision of EMU's Comprehensive University Bands program. So I have been in an official capacity at the university for, over 3 years now. And I had the opportunity, I've worked with Dr. Schneider before, but really had the opportunity to work with her last year, especially concerning our marching band and all the things that were going on with them. And it was such a great experience. And for somebody like me who grew up in music, my dad and my brothers play the drums, I play clarinet. I actually applied to Eastern's music program when I was an undergrad, and ended up changing my major. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But I love seeing a woman in action in this particular role, and to be able to be right there, seeing her in action last year was a really great experience. And prior to her coming here at Eastern, she was faculty over at the University of Minnesota School of Music for 3 years. She has a very diverse background, from podium to the classroom. She holds a Doctor of Music Arts degree from the University of Texas at Austin, and degrees in horn performance, music education from New England Conservatory of Music, the University of Connecticut, as well as having a graduate degree in distinction in performance honors from the former elected to the prestigious American Band Masters Association. We're going to learn a little bit about how she currently serves as the president of the North Central Division of the College Band Directors National Association. She is the first woman to serve in this position since its inception of the division in 1950. You guys, she is making history out here. I can go on and on and on about her, but I want you guys to meet this phenomenal woman that I have the opportunity to work with here at Eastern. Welcome, Dr. Mary Schneider.
Hi. Thank you. Hi. It's great to see you again. Thank you for that.
Listen, I'm so excited to have you. I don't know if I ever told you that story, about the fact that I was a part of the choral program for a minute, and just being in Alexander is a whole nother world. Like, people have no clue how great it is. Like, if you're an Eastern alum who's or a current student who's watching this, like, the vibe, I think I just have to call it a vibe. It's a vibe, it's a mood, it's
very, very energetic and creativity going on all over.
Yes.
But Taquanda, now that I know that you play clarinet, we're going to get you in one of the concert bands. So be ready.
I have not. You know what? And I feel really bad because, like, I have not picked up my clarinet since, like, freshman year. No,
that's okay.
No lie.
That's okay. We can work with that.
So thank you for joining us today. We are excited to talk to you a little bit about what you do as director of the bands, and then also what you're doing as far as the Wind Symphony is concerned. I know you and I have talked about COVID and how that's changed a little bit as far as how our students are, specifically our music students, are dealing with all of this, and now being in a hybrid situation. So I like to give folks an opportunity to tell folks just a little bit about yourself. So go on ahead and tell the folks a little bit about yourself, Dr. Schneider.
Well, since you told them every detail of my professional life in that introduction, I don't know that there's a lot more to say, but I've lived here now. I live in Ann Arbor, actually, but in the Detroit area for 12 years. It goes so quickly.
Wow.
And I was thinking about this. I grew up in the East Coast in New Jersey, right outside of New York City. Okay. And I did my undergrad in Boston. So I lived there for a couple of years. And I taught, as you mentioned, in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and I went to school at University of Texas at Austin. So I lived in Austin, Texas for a while. My whole life I've lived right by a big city, and I just was thinking about that, saying I've been so fortunate, and I feel that way living here in this Detroit area. In this, there's just so much going on. The energy of the city and there's so many opportunities, especially culturally, and I enjoy that diversity of people and opportunities, and that's certainly the case here at EMU.
Yes, and I agree. Like, just being able to, in Ann Arbor is such as I say, an eclectic city. Like, there's something for everyone, right? Like, there's something for everyone. But again, like you mentioned, like, we're just right down the road, from downtown Detroit. Like, it's not, too far. It's not like, oh, I got to drive 3 hours. Like, no, like it's legit around the corner.
And I mean, Ipsy is that way too, where EMU in Ypsilanti is just, there's so many great, unique stores and people and opportunities. And plus it's great being so close to Detroit Airport, Detroit Metro.
Oh, yes.
I travel so much. And so it doesn't add, some people live 2.5 hours from any airport. I can't imagine. I've never had to go through that, so I've always had the advantage of being close to an airport to travel as well.
Yeah, I love being only, like, I'm in the Westland area, and I love being literally 15 minutes away from the airport. Like, exactly. I don't have to wake up like an hour to get there.
Right.
So that is a good thing. So tell us a little bit about, like, and I want to go into this. Like, you are the director, of bands here at Eastern, and you do conduct the Wind Symphony, and you're doing marvelous things in this. But one of the things that I really wanted to kind of touch on and bring up is the fact that, conducting is like a nicely, like, male dominated field, right? Like, you only see so many. And one of the, growing up, my band director, and I called her my literally she became like a surrogate mom to me during junior high and high school years. And she was a woman, you know, and just seeing like how, you know, she commanded just that authority when you walk into a room. Like Miss James didn't play. Like she just, you know, like she was, you knew,
Right.
like, yeah, you don't play with her. Like how's that feel? You know, like how does that feel being you know, being a woman in this male dominated field, and knowing, and I feel like, and maybe this is just me, but I feel as though like with women, like we have to take a step, I kind of got to go a step above in a way, you know, like we have to bring it a little bit harder than what our counterparts might do. So let's talk a little bit about your feelings concerning it.
I think that's true. I can talk. I do think there's you're a little more under the microscope,
Yes.
if you will, you know, when you are in that position. But bands, particularly, not just conducting, but bands, especially at the collegiate level, are very male dominated and have been traditionally male dominated. And you know, when I was growing up and I was younger, there weren't female high school band directors. That was unique. There were, if you were a female, you usually taught lower level grades. That was just the way it was when I was growing up. So that thankfully has changed. There's more opportunities, and women are outstanding teachers and running high school programs all over the country now. And that's also beginning to change quite a bit in the collegiate ranks. I think it's a matter of opportunity in the Midwest, particularly because you have the Big Ten,
Right.
you know, division. There's been, with that legacy of those institutions, also came sort of a legacy of band directors that were associated and would be very long-term tenures in those programs. So the traditions of that, I think it's just like anything that's happening in the symphonic band world too. There's more women that are moving up the ranks and being provided opportunities to study and to learn and get the tutelage that they need in order to succeed in those programs. They're certainly capable. They're certainly successful, and there's fantastic role models. So just like anything, we're seeing that change. It's changed quite a lot since I was younger and I was first getting into the profession, and I'm standing on the shoulders of the women that came before me in my field.
Right.
And they had more obstacles in their way than perhaps I did. And then hopefully in the future, there'll be less obstacles for the women that continue to fill those positions.
Absolutely. So who would you deem as like someone who's been like the most influential woman, you know, and who's inspired you as far as the field that you're in?
Wow. You know, well, as I mentioned, in my field, there's women that were doing this when they were the only ones. And to walk into a room full of hundreds of male, you know, largely white men, band directors, and to be able to stand your own, I think they did pave the way in terms of that glass ceiling. So there are specific people that I could mention, but I think I'm always inspired by anyone who has obstacles that they're overcoming, that has a real high level of excellence that they demand of themselves and they want to pursue, and that they're authentic, you know. And so for me, I never said I want to be the first woman doing this or that or that, right? That never was something I wanted. I just wanted that goal. I just happened to be a woman.
Yeah.
You know, the plus of it is that it happens to be breaking down some of those barriers, or, you know, representation is important. So when I know that there's younger women that look and see me on a podium conducting a university band, and maybe they've never been exposed to that, maybe that's sort of giving them a second thought about, you know, I want to pursue this. I didn't think I would have opportunities, but I can see now that I can.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So, you being the first woman president of the North Central Division of College Band Directors Association, like, tell us about that experience. Like you mentioned, like had a goal, just kind of like fell into it. So, like, tell us a little bit how that transpired, and because I know that's really near and dear to your heart. So, share with us a little bit about that.
Yes, the College Band Directors National Association is all college, all people associated, military conductors, military bands, and community bands, and anyone associated with bands it can also be part of that. But they're really the primary organization, professional organization for college band directors, and I would say there's about 300 members throughout the country. There are 6 divisions. And so when you are elected, which I'm honored to have been elected by my peers to serve in that capacity as president, you fulfill like a 6-year term as first as president, vice president, then president-elect, then president. So I'm only president. I just a few weeks ago became the president.
Wow. Okay.
It's very new in terms of that. It allows me to be on the national board of this organization, and that's exciting because I get to have some input and some, into the vision of with my colleagues about where the association is going, how they can help music education in general, and so that's exciting. And it also allows me to be president of my division, which is the Midwest, basically the North Central Division. So one of my main charges is we have a biennial conference, professional conference. So that'll be happening next year, and I'm kind of the one who has to put it all together.
That is so cool.
It's exciting because I get to choose where it is. I get to pick the guest artists and panelists. I get to pick the conductor for the intercollegiate, for the students that are going to be part of this select intercollegiate band. So it allows me that creativity, but it also allows me to be a service to my colleagues, and come up with creative ways that we can look forward. And after all we've been through with this COVID, I think everybody's anxious to have what we hope will be the opportunity to meet in person again in another year. Yeah,
that is so cool. We got some great.
I can talk about that forever. You can tell. So if I go on too long, just stop me. But I'm definitely passionate about.
And I love it. That's the reason why I asked, because I knew like that's a big thing. Like that is really amazing. And as somebody who sits on boards, like I get it. And once you get that point where once you get to that point where you literally are in a board or an official, I don't want to say official, but an officer capacity as such, and like writing that up, like being available. So yeah, just that whole, it puts me in a position to be on national board. Like I get that totally. So it's
what's really interesting though, and you cannot serve as a national president until you've been a division president as well. So I think what's really interesting is I didn't even know that I was the first woman. I found that out because I was doing a little research on a paper, and I was very surprised actually, and also a little concerned that we had been that long, without anyone representing a more diverse membership. And I think we're starting to make strides in that area in our profession, but it's just a long so I'm happy that that's happening. It's certainly my organization, I'm happy to say, is committed to starting to make those changes, and they're aware that they need. And I guess that's the first step, is just kind of realizing that they are stronger with more diverse voices.
Absolutely. So What challenges do you feel like you have experienced as far as being like director of the bands? Because I know that, we talked about this being a male-dominated field, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of challenges that have come your way. So if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit about your challenges and how you've overcame.
How much time do we have? I'm kidding. I think the challenges that come with being a director of bands, as you mentioned, I'm overseeing the entire university band program in my position. So in addition to what I do creatively as a teacher and as a professor and as a musician, as director of bands, there's a large administrative component of overseeing all of those different constituencies. You have the athletic band side of things, you have staff that's larger, you have alumni that are very passionate about what they experienced, as you expressed.
We are.
And there's a definite strong connection with the band program. And then, of course, the EMU bands, as are most university bands, we're really engaged in the community and in not just the campus community, but the community at large, and really represent the university. So with all those different constituents, that's one of the joys, I think, of what I do. But at the same time, it's one of the challenges, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
So it kind of straddles both of those. And, I would say for me personally, the challenge has always been for me, this is something I'm passionate about and I love. It's just balancing the administrative portion of the job with the things that I love to do, the teaching and the creative aspect, making sure that I'm keeping those balanced and I'm not getting too myopic or too entrenched in the nitty gritty.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise I get away from what I really want to be doing. And so I have to always kind of check that with myself.
That is good. That is so good. We got a comment from Casey over in YouTube, and Casey says that, hi, Dr. Schneider, I miss you. Happy to see your face. Pop up on my feed, and I clicked. She said, I admire you. So
that's so nice. Thank you.
Amazing comments coming in. So tell us a little. Now we also talk a little bit about like leaving legacy for like future generations, and especially being women. And like you mentioned before, there are so many individuals who have sacrificed so much to get us like here to the place that we are in and what we're doing. So how important to you is leaving a legacy and paving a way for future generations? So future women who are interested in being collegiate band directors and dominating in this field, like share with us a little bit about that.
Well, first, let me say that my mentors have been men, a lot of my mentors, and there is a tremendous amount of supportive advocates in men. So it's not, I've never felt as a woman that I wasn't supported by colleagues. And I think it's important to note women can have all kinds of mentors. They don't need to just be women, even though they might look at a woman who's a model for them of success. But more to your question, I don't think of leaving a legacy. I guess I don't. It's interesting that you ask it that way. I mean, I don't think of that in terms of as a woman, but I do feel very passionately about empowering young women. And I've always been that way because I just don't want, it started with my nieces when they were little, just making them aware that they can do anything they want to do. And that I've always, our culture in this country is, it's very, language is important. And we're starting to realize that more and more. that we need to provide opportunities for people to see themselves in and to be authentic. And I think that we are in a very much a male-oriented society.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's it's just that women need to be aware of that. I think when you're in a male-dominated field, you are very aware of that because you experience it daily. If you're not in that situation, you probably don't even notice that there could be obstacles. But I think that's why it's important with younger women or the next generation of girls as they're growing up, is that we're conscious as adults of the language that we use with little girls. We're conscious of the way that we treat boys as well, so that we're not getting into the stereotypical ways that we treat people and sort of embed them in a sort of a cultural, a manifestation of what has always been. So for me as a band director, I love to affect my students. It's something I'm always, positive about. I just love the idea that they can grow and grow into their best vision of themselves. And if that means empowering young women, it's usually I have to convince them that they have the skills and they've achieved high enough to pursue things. Because I think women doubt themselves more. They're conditioned. In my experience, they're conditioned to doubt themselves, to apologize, to not be, and this is a generalization.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know that exists, and there's certainly exceptions to every rule. But I think young boys are conditioned to be more confident very often. And that's, again, I say that with being careful to say that that's just a generalization. But
no, I totally, I'm with you on that one. And like you said, we see it in different, facets. Of course, every person is different, every situation is different, and how they are. But that is really true. Like, it's just like how if a boy goes and plays on the playground and busts his knee, the first thing parent is just like, oh, just get up and dust it off, you're all right, versus giving them an opportunity to actually feel what just what just happened. And that is honest. That is really, really honest. So, like, as closing, can you share with us like some thoughts as far as this month, it being Women's History Month, and celebrating women's history and creating our own legacies for us to do what we do? Like, can you share with us any closing remarks that you may have?
Sure. I would say take risks. I tell my students all the time, take risks. And I think as women, to know about the exceptional women as role models, the people, whether it's Serena Williams, as an athlete, all that's happening is just empowering and inspiring. And I hope that by just acknowledging and celebrating in the ways that you are, it just gives people some thought to know that we need to, that anything's possible. And I know that sounds cliche, but
it's the truth. It is the truth. Sometimes we have to hear it.
As an educator, I think it's important that even if there's not anyone that's done it before, if that's your goal, yes, you can make it happen. And hopefully we'll come to a day where we won't be the first woman, where we won't have to identify people as a female conductor or as a women composer, but we'll just be able to it'll be so ubiquitous that we won't acknowledge that,
Yes.
That those differences won't exist.
Absolutely. We have another Kelly Smith came in, and over at YouTube, and she says, I was there when Dr. Schneider first came to EMU. Her high expectations are unwavering, and she taught us to be unapologetic about our convictions. I love it. And she also goes on to say, her shoulders are amongst those I stand on as I pursue. Wow, that is awesome. Her doctor.
Oh, Kelly, thank you. That means so much. And also, I'm so thrilled for you that you've gone on and are pursuing your PhD in musicology. That's exciting.
That is cool.
I had no doubt you would do great things. So congratulations to you.
Congratulations, Kelly. I love seeing comments and receiving comments like this during these conversations because it brings so much stuff like full circle, right? About the dynamic things that are going on here.
Yeah, I think women have to support each other.
Absolutely.
We have to, and that's what you're doing with this program. I just think we have to help raise each other up and support each other and realize there's room for all of us to excel and to do what we want to do.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Schneider. I absolutely, enjoy working with you. I'm excited about what's to come, and, hopefully we'll be, prayerfully we will be back in Rynearson again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love.
Yeah, we're anxious. We're anxious to get back in there. As I was telling you earlier, we're doing we're sort of modified and following safety protocols, but we've been playing in small groups, and of course in the fall we had to modify quite a few things. Dr. Smith, as director of the marching band, was the students were terrific about it, but we're all anxious to get back to doing what we love, which is being able to make music together. So, and I know you'll be standing there by our side.
You know it.
Helping us with all our social media. So, our number one fan, Taquanda.
Listen, every time it takes me back. Like, it literally takes me back to high school and, and such. So I love it. I love being in the atmosphere. I love being right along with you guys, and even being engaged with the students. Like, that right there has been like one of my loves and passions for what we do at Eastern. It's like we get to tap into those students and see what they're doing. Like, it's amazing. So it's cool. Yep.
That's
so I will be right there.
One of the blessings is to be able to work with young people, and that's been I love that because it rejuvenates and energizes me, because they're fantastic students here at EMU, of course, but I love that part of what we get to do, because as I get older, I appreciate it even more, because it sort of keeps me young. We're both 39 now.
Yes, we're 39. So, we got to keep our youthfulness, and they help us do that. They help us stay 39.
They do.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, everybody who's watching on YouTube or on Facebook, for joining us for making HERstory as we celebrate women's history here at Eastern. And again, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the comment box. If you're watching the replay, we'll make sure that Dr. Schneider receives them. And thank you again for joining us, and we're signing out. Bye.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.